Unit 6 Vocabulary. Dot plot. A dot plot is a graphical display of data using dots. If you see, the graph in the example is labeled from 0 to 12. The dots just represent how many times 0 happened in the data, how many times 1 was in the data, how many times 2 was in the data, and so forth. Box and whisker plot. A graphic way to display the median, quartile, and extremes of a data set on a number line to show distribution of data. We'll go into more detail over box and whisker plots, but box and whisker plots have different sections in that box and whisker plot. So we're going to go label those in our example. If you look, box and whisker plots look like this. This outside part right here, this represents your lower extreme, meaning the smallest number in your data set. This outside dot represents the upper extreme. Which represents your highest number in your data set. The first part, where the box starts, right here, this represents your lower quartile. And then the one closest to the upper extreme, this one is your upper quartile. And then you have your median, the line in the middle of your box. Stem and leaf plot. A plot where each data value is split into a leaf and a stem. So it just breaks up your numbers. If you had the numbers 20, 21, 29, 31, 32, 43, and 56. You're going to put all your ones place in the stem area. So we have 3 numbers that start with a 2. And then each number after the first number will be in your leaf. So this would represent 20. Putting the 1 here would represent 21. Putting a 9 here would represent 29. You could also do that with your 30s. I have 2 numbers in my 30s. I have 31, and 32. And then I have 40s. 43, and then I have my 50s, 56. So it's just an easier way to break down all of your numbers. Histograms, a graphical display of data using bars of different heights. There's an example of a histogram to the right, and we'll go into more detail later on. Skewed, when data has a long tail on one side of the other. You can have skewed data. For example, if you look at this first one, this represents a negative skew because the long tail is on the left side. The one in the middle represents no skew because it has a perfect bell curve. And then you have on the right one, it's positively skewed because it has its long tail on the right side. Random sample. A selection that is chosen randomly, purely by chance, not by probability. So, for example, I would randomly choose the next person who walks by me versus choosing the next girl that walks by me. It's just a random sample. Next page of vocabulary. Mean. The average of all of the numbers in a data set. To find your mean, you're going to add all numbers in your data set and then divide by total numbers in your data set. Median, the middle number in the data set. So for example, if you had the numbers 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 6 is directly in the middle of these numbers, so 6 would represent your median. Mode, the number which appears most often in a data set. So for example, if you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 5s are seen most often in this data set. 5 is the mode. Range. The difference between the lowest and the highest values in a data set. So if you used the example and you had the data set 3, 4, 6, 7, and 9. My highest number is 9 and my lowest number is 3. I find the difference of those two. 9 minus 3 is 6. 6 is the range. Outlier. A value that lies outside most of the other values in a set of data. So if you look at your box and whisker plot here, this right here is way outside, and so is this dot. These do not connect. They are outside of the box and whisker plots. These represent your outliers. Quartile. Values that divide a list of numbers into quarters. You have 3 different quartiles. You have your first quartile, which is your again your lowest. You have your second quartile, which is your median, and then you have your third quartile, which is your highest. Excuse me. And then lastly, a frequency table. a table that shows the total for each category or group of data. So for example, I could roll a dice 10 times. My options would go here. I could roll a 1, a 2, a 3, 4, 5, or 6. If I rolled my dice, I could then tally how many times I roll and it land on 1. How many times I roll and it land on 2. And 3, and 4, and 5, and 6. 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so there is, for instance, my example of what I rolled. And then over here would be your total. So I rolled a number 1, according to my tally, 1 time. I rolled a number 2, 2 times. 3, 1 time. 4, 2 times. And 5, 1 time. And your 6 is 3 times. So a frequency table just is an easier way to separate your data so you can see it in a different way. We are done with vocabulary, so if you go ahead and cut this out and glue it to page 65 and 66 in your notebook, you are good to go.